All right, so welcome to the last, man, this could be the last video. Probably not, but one of the last videos that we're going to record for AP Statistics talking about our last test that you have to learn, which is called a linear t-test. A linear t-test. Now, let's think back to yesterday. For those of you that were here, we focused on what kind of tests? The chi-square test, okay? So those chi-square tests, we did the independence one. Remember, chi-square test for independence was about two categorical variables, whether there's a relationship. This test is about two quantitative variables. All right, so that's the focus of this week, is what to do when you want to see if there's a relationship between two quantitative variables. All right, how do you know if something's quantitative? You think, not necessarily numbers, right? It could trick you with numbers. Always look for units, okay? Look for the units. If you can't think of a unit, maybe it's not quantitative. All right, so we had this example, and this is actually, should probably resonate with you guys because you guys have just finished up probably taking the SAT. Some of you are now taking the TSI or something, like an intro, like math test. Oh, it was easy? Excellent. Woo! All right. It's not easy for everyone. It's a nice word. Now, there's also concern about students and their anxiety about performing on these tests. All right, so what they've done is they've given us real data that we're going to basically analyze. All right, so you already put in all of this data into your calculator, hopefully, if you're on track. Now, in order to do this, we're going to start out with the same thing we've always started out with, a phone call. Because why wouldn't it be a phone call? Mr. Frederick? Sure, you got it. Thanks. Tiny V, they want to see you in the front. Just really quickly, they said. So I'll see you in 18 minutes. All right. Oh, you okay. Thought you were being mean. Okay, fine. So, you'll notice with the hypotheses, all right, we have our null and alternative. You can, if you want, do a parameter. You can, but what I tell students is you're going to have a chance to write it out in a sentence just like we did with chi-squared. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about.
So they don't even bother?
You don't need to bother. You can just use that sentence. All right, so the null hypothesis, if you're doing a linear t-test on the AP exam next month, in a couple weeks, you're right. I think probably 3 weeks from Thursday. What? The null hypothesis will always be that there is no association between your two variables. I'm going to repeat that for those listening at home. Whenever you're doing a linear t-test, the null hypothesis is always going to say something about there being no association between your two variables. Now, if you look at the alternative, you see that we're saying that there is. And because this is a linear t-test, I throw that word linear in there. So let me show you what I'm talking about there. Throwing that word linear in there. So that's something that's important to make sure you include. Oh, perfect, Tanya, you're back. I'm so fast. Ba-dum-bum. Are there any questions on the hypotheses? Do you guys see the large beta? Right, you see that capital beta? That right here, this little guy here explains what beta is. This is the idealized slope for the regression line if we had all of the data, the entire population's worth. You never will. So that's why you'll notice with my symbols, I assume that there's no association, so that beta sub 1 is 0, no slope. And the alternative is that there is a slope, that it's not equal to 0. Any questions on the linear t-test hypotheses? Now you know what's coming next. What comes after we do the hypotheses? Assumptions and conditions. So let's start out and look at the first assumption. Yes, I can go back. If we had all the values in the population. The first thing you want to do is check to make sure that this is quantitative data. So ask yourself, do I think that these variables are quantitative? If they are, then you're good to go. If they're not, then you shouldn't be doing a linear regression t-test. Maybe you should be doing a chi-squared test for independence if you have two categorical variables. All right? So in this case, we're going to go ahead and say our variables are quantitative. All right, so just a statement about anxiety level and math test score are quantitative variables. Done, that's it. So that's the first thing you're checking. Now the next thing you're going to check, after you assume this linearity, is you need to check, bless you, you're going to check the scatter plot. So I know it's been a long time, but we're about to make a scatter plot. I think it might have been since the first semester. Since your midterm.
Yeah, I was trying to.
No, my pen. Just to mess with people. Yeah, what's up, Luis? What's wrong? I'm not sure what. Can you use your words? Yeah? Okay. What? I mean, that's helpful. Yeah, all the time. And Catherine, but her words. She has less words. She's really into the daddy, and then like points at something or says something, and I've got to go get it. Like, daddy, balloon. I have to go get a balloon for her. Daddy, toy, and I get a toy. That's what she wants me to do. I'm happy to do it. That's why I had children, to be bossed around. Okay, so you guys ready? I don't think you're ready for this. It's been so long. Some of you have had a birthday since this has happened. That's how long this has been. Me, I haven't either, but some people have. Because we haven't done it since 2018. So if your birthday was in 2019, January, February, March. Like, I had 2 children the last time we did this.
Oh, whoa. We wouldn't like that.
I know, right? Crazy. It's called counting. I mean, I didn't, right? My wife did. Okay, so. Sorry, Ty. There was no need for that. My fault. I'm sorry. Okay. First, we have to decide. Do you think anxiety level influences or explains test score? Or do you think, some people are already nodding, or test score explains anxiety level? Both. Right? But most likely, it's going to be, I think, the first one. That your anxiety is going to explain how you do on the test. Okay, so I'm going to go doc, and yes, Marcelo, I'm going to put this in the document. Doc, insert. Very good, George. Data and statistics. Now, the explanatory, we think anxiety level explains our test score. So the x-axis is going to be the explanatory for anxiety. So go down to the x-axis and click anxiety. Well, it should be just a dot plot right now. Then you're going to add on the y variable, you're going to add your response, which is test score. Yee! I know, right? It never gets old. Take a look. Keep in mind, if this is the AP exam question, you're at a crossroads. If you think this is linear, then you can keep going. If you don't think it's linear, then you have to do re-expression. Who remembers that fun stuff with the logarithms and 1 over the square root of your y variable? Yes? What? Oh man, it was chapter 10 for the win. Oh man, 2018. I love it. Pretty much every year when I say that, except for 1 year with a student that was like, oh yeah, let's do it. Pretty much every year, students say, oh yeah, it looks linear, because they don't want to do that linear regression stuff. All right? So we think it's linear. So we have now checked the straight enough condition.
What is that? Does that affect your, like your results in any way?
Your results?
Yeah,
well, if the AP exam wants you to re-express, then yes, you'll end up getting a completely different, test statistic and p-value. But I would go ahead and tell you right now, I can't obviously with 100% guarantee this. But if they're going to ask you to do a t-test on the AP exam, they're probably not going to ask you to do re-expression, because that would just be mean, not stupid. It would be mean.
Like the ladder of power.
Yes, the ladder of powers. Good times. Do you have your notes from that?
They're all in chronological order.
What? I hope my children have those kind of study skills right there. Good Lord, that's impressive. Okay. Now, after we check to make sure it's straight enough, then we're going to do a couple more assumptions. We're going to assume independence, just like we've done in the past. I know I skipped a slide. Don't worry. I'm coming back to that slide. I skipped a slide. I'm coming back. So we need to make sure that we think one student's score and anxiety level does not affect somebody else's. Now, are you guys worried about independence? No. No. Yes, Marcelo, why are you worried about independence? Okay, what would... Oh, so if they're like in the same waiting room? Okay. What if I get all of these tests and they do the test, these 24 people do the test at separate times, separate locations, like testing centers? Would that help you feel better? That way they're alone, there's no one else to make them feel anxious. Or maybe that's worse. Maybe if you're alone, you feel more anxious. They're like, I'm all alone!
What if
No?
someone like cheated and then they'll be anxious because like they don't know if that person knew what they were doing? So then
See, I feel like now, George, we've gone too far. Right? We've gone a little too far into the hypothetical what if. Like what if someone brought in a cheat sheet and then somebody saw them and reported them, and then now they're worried, are they going to report me? And we're getting too far. Okay? But really, ultimately, it comes down to, do you think there's something going on if you looked at the people and their test scores and anxiety level? I'm not really that worried. Right? And you know that I want to run the test, so. Okay. Now, do you guys remember, after we decide that it's linear, how we get the linear regression model? Okay, hold on, here we go. Okay, I'm actually going to go doc, insert, a calculator page. Doc, insert, calculator page. Then menu, okay, drive Marcelo, menu. Okay, stats. Okay. Which one? There's two of them. Oh, you were so close, Marcelo, but you failed. Which one is it? It's the A plus BX. All right, A plus BX. Think, Marcelo, if you ever like, which one is it? MX plus B was so algebra. You're not in algebra anymore. All right, A plus BX. Number 4. What was our explanatory, or X? Anxiety. Our response, or Y value? Score. I'm going to go back to it. Don't you worry. I'm going back. Don't worry. I'm going back. Notice where it's saving the equation. I always tell students to check that out. Mine's saving in F1. I don't need anything else, and I'm ready to hit OK. Everybody okay? All right. Okay, so there is our model. Let's write it down just for fun. All right, so we have, what is our intercept? 91.6583 minus, you can just write it anywhere, 4.48 something, 48, wherever you want. Sure. What's our explanatory? Our X? What's our X? Anxiety. And what goes on the left side of the equal sign? But there's something else. Who knew it? Eduardo, what up? Don't forget about your favorite hat. What does hat mean, Eduardo? Ooh, not expected. That's not the word we use, but it's kind of right. Not really. What? Guys, what does the hat mean? Oh no. Predicted. Did that just come to you? The p hat. Well, p hat is the sample proportion, but p hat is from a sample. So this is predicted score. Right? So if I walk in and I say, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so anxious, I bet I'm a 4 on the anxiety level. I'd plug in 4, and it can tell me what score I would expect to get on this test.
Wow.
Now, do you guys remember what we call your actual test score compared to what the model thinks you should have gotten? What happens when I compare those? When I subtract them, observed minus expected or predicted is the residual. Eduardo, you remember this. I love it. Now, every time you run a model, right, every time I have a model, before I use it, I have to check something. You have to check the residuals. Do you remember what I hope to see in the residuals plot? Nothing. No pattern. A cloud. Very good. I know it's been a while, guys. It's been a long time. Doc. And that's what tomorrow and Friday is going to be all about, basically getting you comfortable with doing this again. Doc, insert, data and statistics. We're going to make another scatter plot. Keep your X value the same. What was our explanatory value? Anxiety. But now for my Y value, I'm not going to use score. I'm going to do stat dot residual. R-E-S-I-D. R-E-S-I-D. Oh, that didn't work. Well said. Again, if you don't see no pattern or a cloud, then you have to resort to re-expression. So what do you see, Roberto? Roberto? What? It's not a trick question. There's one answer and one answer only that I want. This is the easiest answer ever. There's no pattern. There's so much anxiety. There's no pattern. Roberto, do you agree?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. What? What?
What was that?
It was Nicole's note. You don't agree, Justin?
That's a great. I agree.
All right. Now, do you remember that blank slide that you guys wrote in? I have a couple of things there for you I want you to look at.
Just wrote it.
It's fine. I made this. You'll notice we've already made 2 of them. I know, it's a lot. Do you see how we've made 2 so far? Just ignore the bottom 2. Ignore the bottom 2 for now. Do you see here's our scatter plot? And here's our residuals. All right, we just made those. Now, we didn't go over this, but when I make a scatter plot, my brain immediately starts thinking about 3 things. Direction, shape, and form. Very good. Direction, that is for a histogram. That would be here, would be shape, center, spread. Direction, form, strength. There is a right? Negative. moderate linear relationship between anxiety level and test score. Do you remember that statement? That's coming back, guys. That is coming back. It's going to hit you real hard pretty soon here. Okay? Figuratively. Okay. Now, we got a few more things to check before we can actually do the test. I know I'm running low on time and your patience, so I appreciate it. So, I believe we're here. Are we not on this page? Yes, we are at the very bottom, and we're looking at to check the spread of the residuals is uniform. And so in that blank slide that you had where I posted all those scatter plots, that was the third one. Looks like this. This one down here at the bottom left, that is a histogram for the residuals. I also did a side-by-side box plot. I don't even know why I did that, but it's just fun. YOLO, right? I don't know why I just said that. Anyway, if you look at the bottom left, you see how that looks roughly symmetric and unimodal? So I'm not worried about that condition. That is this condition here, the equal variance assumption with the does the plot thicken condition. I know, it's a really dumb condition. Okay, we're almost there. We're so close. That was that slide I put in there, maybe. All right, here we go. Last couple. I see why I made the box plots. No, I made the box plots to check to see if there's any outliers. Because if you make the box plots in your calculator, do you remember what symbol it will tell you? It will put in the box plot. It'll be an asterisk. It actually will be an open circle. The asterisk is the extreme outlier. Like a little open circle past your whisker is an outlier. I feel like this should be something we review before the exam.
Yes.
Yes, all this stuff, because it seems like it's going, okay. We'll make sure to review linear regression really hard, not next week, but the week after. All right. Now, what I realized in doing this last year is that this is a lot. It's a lot to remember. So I made a little summary here. You want to start writing it down of kind of the order in which I work. So whenever I read an AP question, and again, guys, if you're taking the AP exam, you may not even get one of these for your response. So you're like, oh man, I'm doing all this work. Yeah, I mean, you never know. But if it happens, yes, you'll be really excited if it happens, because you'll know the order to work in. So you make a scatter plot. Hopefully it's linear. If you don't think it's linear, that's where you have to re-express. We didn't have to do that because we said our scatter plot showed a linear relationship between our two variables. Okay, once you do that, what I tell students to do is to actually make the model. And then you want to check your residuals. The residuals plot, you're hoping shows no pattern or a cloud. Pretty good? Okay. Good time to see. Okay. Yep. All right. And then the last three things I do. All right. Check the residuals, as I said. Then make a histogram of the residuals. So why would it be n minus 2? George's brain saw the degrees of freedom. Why would it be the sample size minus 2? Because there's two variables. Very good. There's two variables. Correct. And that will be something that's called an analysis of variance, which you'll do in stats in college if you progress towards more stats, which I hope all of you do. And I'm sure inside your brain you're thinking, I'm good. It's been so much fun to help my friend because he's just like, dude, what is the point? Why am I doing this? I'm like, dude, this is awesome. You're taking stats. You missed out. I've asked him to watch and subscribe, but he has yet to because he's a meanie head. Checking my subscriptions. Still 109, but hey, I still have more than Miss Burns. That's what matters. What?
Did she take it as serious as you did?
I'm not sure there's many things that she takes more seriously than I do. I'm a very serious person. You know that. I never have fun.
Is the intro chapter a lot harder than the course?
It's very similar. I would say they're going quicker because it's one semester, so it's much faster than you guys are going. But the book they use goes a very different order of things, which I don't like. I remember in the stats courses I took, I had one course where it was like that, the one that he's taking. Just don't like the way they set up the book, the material. So I like ours better.
You should make your own book and sell it for like $200. Professors do that. They make those. It's like you have to buy that too.
You know, I'm gonna get my Tesla.
For your test.
Don't worry. Right? You guys keep giving me money.
Yeah.
Guys, this is very, very flattering that you think I'm like smart enough to write my own book, but I would have nothing to add besides what was already there. I'd only add the jokes. That's all I'd add.
And the videos.
All my tips.
Buy the book and get a free subscription to all the inside stuff.
You should do like a tutoring website.
Brand your account.
Well, I thought about tutoring because I think that'd be a good opportunity for more money, but most people just want tutoring on like the SAT or the PSAT, like the test scores.
No.
No?
No, like you can do like a website where like people read like
Like $700.
But then don't I have to $700? Yeah, I do like the idea of getting paid for no work. That's my dream. All right, let's do the test. You guys ready to do the test? No, Luis? All right. If you have the Inspire, here are the buttons to push for the test. I'm actually going to go back. I believe is it 1.3? Yes. You say I already have a calculator page here. You can insert a new one if you'd like, but doc, insert calculator if you want. Otherwise, just go back to your other calculator. Hit menu, statistics, and stat test. You're right. Do you guys see? I don't know if yours shows up. Mine's at the very bottom. Linear regression t-test. You guys see it? Mine's letter A. Is yours letter A as well?
Yes.
Yes. So hit A, linear regression t-test. What's our explanatory?
Anxiety.
Our response. Score. No, not stat residuals. Score. Now it's saving it into F2 because it already put in F1, but you guys realize that the F1, my F1 and F2 are going to be the same, right? Because it's going to put, see, it's going to put that same equation in there. Okay, maybe not. You'll notice the alternative. Just leave it alone. Don't touch it. It's always that. And hit OK. Oh, did not do it? Double. I don't have a double calculator.
No, like a test before.
That wasn't a test. Let's try again. Okay, there we go. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. Okay, now a couple of things. You should see. Do you guys see how we have A and B? Here's our model. All right, so we found that before, but they give it to you again. It gives you degrees of freedom, which is nice. Right, 22. We have the correlation coefficient here, negative 0.525. But ultimately, I care about what? I care about p-value, yes, but I care about the t-value as well, the t-score. All right, this test statistic. And p-value, you'll notice for whatever alpha you're going to use, this p-value is very small. So what are we going to say about this scenario, about anxiety and test? We're going to reject the null. And what are we saying about the relationship between anxiety level and test score? No, there is, right? The alternative we said was that there is a linear relationship. Remember? The alternative we think there is a linear relationship.
You don't have to draw it.
Yes, you do. It's coming. It's right here. Mechanics. There's my curve. I will say that when we do the review next week on the multiple choice questions, they like to put these linear regression t-tests and intervals into multiple choice because it requires a lot of work to do a test. So they want to test your ability to understand and answer questions about this content, but they're going to do most of the work for you. What I mean is this. Like, I think I have this slide. I think I have it here. Yes, do I have this slide here? All right, they'll give you this. This is called computer output, and they'll give you this. And you'll notice we did this in the first semester, even if you're like, no, we didn't. Yeah, we did. Here is your y-intercept. Here is your y-intercept, and there's your slope. And we didn't do this in the first semester, but now I care about, there's my t-test statistic and my p-value. All right, so in computer output, they'll give it to you. And we're going to do that more next week before the test. Okay, let me go back to that curve. You're drawing the curve. Excellent. I know it's hard to see, but you see how it's two-tailed? Yes, you see it's two-tailed? And what do you think? Does this look mostly normal?
Yeah.
Why does that look close to normal? Because the degrees of freedom is 22, right? The higher the degrees of freedom is, more and more normal it will look. Exactly, normal. All right. And we're ready for our conclusion. And then we'll be finished. So R squared, do you guys remember what R squared is? Yes, R squared is, remember you say it as a percentage, right? 95% of the variation in test score can be explained by the change in their anxiety level. I don't know what R squared, I just made up that number. But whatever it is, I think it was at 40%.
So since we rejected it, is it not valid or is it still valid?
No, we still think that there's a relationship.
Okay.
Now, what you're asking is how good is the model? Those are different questions, right? You can say that something has a relationship with something else linearly, but it may not have a great model, right? They don't have to be one and the same. Yes, Nadia.
So on the AP exam,
Yeah.
what is like most likely would be the response?
The test, I would say most likely a proportion or a mean. So like a 1 proportion, a 2 proportion, or a 2 sample t-test for averages, or even a paired t-test. I mean, listen, Nadia, it could be one of these, but if I had to look at the data, I'd say it would be one of the first ones we did. Is Mr. Ranger? Yes. Sure, you got it. Thanks. Joseph, when the bell rings, go see Miss Lemus in the front. All right, bye. Okay, are there any more questions? These are really good questions, guys. And don't worry, we have tomorrow and Friday to practice on how to do this. So that's the plan. You're going to get to work in groups on a couple of problems that hopefully will get you more comfortable with linear regression. All right. While you're finishing that, I want to play a short little video that kind of summarizes the linear regression t-test that we just did. And Nicole, because you're in the very back, and you've had trouble viewing things in the past, we'll sit right here for me. That'll be a little closer. All right, is everybody ready? Just a quick little video to summarize kind of what we've been doing. That way you'll feel good about it in the future. Thanks, Nicole. Appreciate it.